Share with you today my interpersonal communication design. Let me introduce myself first. My name is Morgan Dill. I'm currently a teacher and I'm pursuing a degree in human services counseling. Because of that, I'm taking a look at my personal communication style and how I speak and act and communicate with others. The purpose of this presentation is to share with you my design, as well as sharing my overarching goal, how my behavior blends and background affect my communication, some resources and strategies, and my action plan on how I plan to achieve these goals. My overarching goal is to build community and friendships by making an impact in others' lives, by being an effective and reflective communicator in my career, family relationships, and everyday life. I have 3 subset goals. My first one is perfecting my listening skills, working on perceptions and judgments, as well as building community and friendships. I use the DISC model as one of my resources. It helped me determine what my personality type was and what blends there were. It is made up of the DISC, active task-oriented, active people-oriented, passive people-oriented, and passive task-oriented. These can blend together and they determine what our personality types are. My personal personality type is the SC and CS, which is passive people-oriented and passive task-oriented. This means that I am a caring, loving person with this personality. I'm a pleasing person, compliant, honest, direct, and giving. I lack in areas such as confidence, peppiness, properness, and impressing others. This behavior blend, they all come with strengths and weaknesses. My strengths in this personality type would be that I'm patient with people, therefore I can work with them well and be a good listener to them, which is the second one. I'm a good listener. My quietness and my want to help others is a good quality to have, especially in the degree that I'm pursuing. My weaknesses from this blend, I'm a trusting person, so I may believe others when I should be questioning them. And I'm also lacking in confidence to clearly express what I'm feeling or what I'm trying to say. Not only is it important to look into our personality types and behavior blends, it is important to look at our personal backgrounds because that also can affect my communication style. There are 3 main things that have affected my personality style, I believe, which are my parents and upbringing, my personal beliefs, and my faith. My parents are happily married and they've raised us in a loving home, but I could tell that they have different listening styles. My father is one who will listen all the way through to the end of what I'm trying to say. He'll hear me out, and then he'll give his suggestion, his advice, or his complaints. My mother is one who likes to speak more than she does listen. My personal beliefs also affect my communication, and they can be both positively and negatively. I tend to judge people sometimes, but then I've also been proud of myself because I don't judge. I guess I don't judge in certain areas, but then in some ways I do. And that can affect how I talk to other people. My faith has also played a big role in my interpersonal communication. I was raised Baptist and I was raised with strong Christian values. And this can affect me positively, I feel. And it's made me put an emphasis on building community with others and building friendships. And to do that, you have to be able to communicate with them. In interpersonal communication, there are barriers, and Madeline Burley Allen gives us some great barriers to look for in her book, Listening: The Forgotten Skill. The first one is perception, reception, and attention. This is how you perceive others when they're speaking to you. This is how you're giving them attention when they're speaking to you. I quote, depending on the situation and the listener's motives, different mental interactions between the 3 and the listener may be activated. We sometimes expect to hear certain things when something else was actually said, and that's how you perceive things. Others may be more likely to listen only to subjects that interest them, and that's what's holding their attention. The second communication barrier is hearing what I want to hear. And I'll tell you, these 4 communication barriers are barriers that I'm struggling with and having to focus on to make myself a better communicator. Hearing what I want to hear. Depending on the situation and the emotions, I sometimes will hear something that is completely different than what the speaker said. That is, or, waiting to hear something that they haven't said yet, but expecting something else, and then I hear it wrong. Bert Borton tells us in her article that we communicate 80% of the time, And she says that only 45% of that is listening. Listening is the most important part of communicating, and not many people realize that. The third barrier is the self-conscious listener. This is what I am. I find myself thinking, am I doing well or badly? Am I speaking or whatever I'm doing? Do I look all right? I wonder if I'm making any sense at all. She mentions in her book that preoccupations with internal matters at the expense of effective listening. There are also physical barriers, such as the time of day or fatigue, things going on around you that you can't really help, but they're there. If it's late at night, you could be really tired, exhausted, and you're just fuzzy and you can't pay attention as you should. There are also distractions such as people walking around and conversations going on around you that can distract you from listening to the speaker. There are also several resources that I found that have helped me and that I will continue to study. One is Why Don't We Listen Better? Communicating and Connecting in Relationships by James C. Peterson. He talks about the TLC card, the Talk Your Listening card. This is a great tool to use when you're wanting to have a deep conversation. It helps explain what the talker is supposed to do and what the listener is supposed to do. I also mentioned earlier the DISC personality type assessment. That helps you determine what your personality type is. And that can help you understand why you think the things you do, why you act the way you do, and feel the things that you do. You can find that at uniquelyu.org. The third one is Listening: The Forgotten Skill, written by Madeline Burley Allen. This is a great book that goes through all the different aspects of the listening process and can help you really grow in your listening skills. I also wanted to give some techniques from James C. Peterson's book, Why Don't We Listen Better? The first technique is repeat accurately. This is when you repeat what the speaker is saying back to them so they can hear it, and it might change or help them realize what they're saying. The third one is to decode. This is when you are making sure that what you're hearing the person say is what they're saying. And then the fourth one is admitting ignorance. If you don't understand what the speaker is saying, it's okay to say, I'm not really sure what you're saying or what you're trying to do. The fourth one is owning your own feelings. If you have a strong emotion about something, you can share it, but keep it brief. I'd like to share with you now my action plan on how I plan to meet all these goals that I have said. I plan to pray, reflect, work on effective listening, work on empathetic listening, being succinct, and practicing nonverbal cues. I'm going to start with praying. I got to ask God to help me with this because I want to be a better communicator. In my counseling career, I've got to be able to communicate with others. I'm going to reflect, think about my past communications, my conflicts that I've had, anything that I can remember on, and just focus on how I can make it better. I need to focus on effective listening, always being aware and present. And I need to focus on empathetic listening, or also called unconditional positive regard. Cooney says that the focus here is on the use of face and eyes to increase perceived closeness, which can lead to feelings of being positively cared for and about. Speakers who maintain comfortable eye contact and pleasing facial expressions during conversation communicate increased unconditional positive regard. That is very important in empathetic listening. I need to be succinct, which is being clear and concise on what I'm speaking about, and I also need to practice nonverbal cues, such as eye contact and hand movements, and just focusing on how my face is looking when I'm speaking. I would like to close with a quote by Tony Robbins, and I hope you will think about what this quote means. The way we communicate with others and with ourselves ultimately determines the quality of our lives. Thank you all.